So while the opponents of gun control are very vocal, well-financed, the NRA has been up here. The NRA's been up here a number of times raising money for the Canadian gun lobby.
We paid them to be up here. You're paid by ANSA and George Soros. I mean, if we're going to talk about money, I'd love to see your books, but they're not open.
Do you do libel as well? Because actually,
I'm a witness.
No, your group.
No, I'm a witness. I'm not even hearing this stuff.
Personally, your group is paid for by outside sources.
I think you're very mistaken. But in any case,
then prove me wrong. Open your books.
How about we let her speak first?
Well, I'd like her to open her books.
Thanks. But in fact, the problem, I would say, from the point of view of democracy, is that the gun lobby is very outspoken, very vocal. On the side of support, while you ask most Canadians, do you support gun control? Yes. Do you think we should register guns? Yes. In fact, the majority of Canadians would ban guns altogether, but they don't actually do anything about it. They don't actually do anything about it. But we do know, and I've just had conversations with Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, Canadian Association of Police Boards, Canadian Police Association, which represents the rank and file police officers, all three police organizations in this country, so the boards, the chiefs, and rank and file, continue to support the registry, and particularly in light of the fact that the RCMP study, which talked about how the system is used, and some of the information about the system costs was actually withheld until after the vote. So I think a lot of people feel that full and transparent information was not shared. In fact, you know, there's a lot of talk about the costs of the registry, and it may have come up in the earlier segment, but the costs are sunk. Like, the guns that have been registered are registered. The people who have been licensed, most of the money was spent on licensing, not on registration. But 7 million guns have been registered. The costs of going forward, are new sales and transfers, and that's why the RCMP say that eliminating the registration of rifles and shotguns, eliminating it tomorrow, will save at most $3 million a year. $3 million a year is the cost of one complex murder investigation. So if the tool not only helps solve crimes, helps hold people accountable when they misuse their guns, but also in some cases allows the police to take preventative action, $3 million a year is not a huge investment, given the value that the policing groups, violence against women groups, and let's not forget suicide prevention and public health groups.
Has she made her point sufficient for me to interject now, or? Just curious. I want to make sure. Because she's mentioning $3 million a year. It's funny, her group was part of the group that said the whole thing would cost $2 million, became $2 billion. So really, I think we should read in that $3 billion.
John, I don't think it's that a group that was lobbying for registration has anything to do with the management of it.
No, but she was part of the group that predicted it to be $2 million. And we gun owners said, you're crazy, it's going to be $1 billion. We were wrong, it was $2 billion. So now they're saying it's going to be $3 million.
Do you agree it's a sunk cost?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And it's the sunk cost, and it was wasted money.
Doesn't
and that's
matter.
what's so upsetting.
It's spilled milk, right?
Oh, yes, exactly.
So it exists
so you do
now.
Not keep
you
spending
register
money.
your guns. You're happy to do it.
No, I'm not happy to do it. I wouldn't be here if I were happy to do it.
Well, you proudly displayed it.
No, I was saying this is what your money is paid for. This is useless. This is meaningless data. So
you know,
that's my
it's
point.
interesting because one of the other points you were talking about the way your arrest of a number of people who had illegal firearms. One of the arguments actually for licensing legal gun owners and registering legal guns is that actually allows you to identify the illegal guns. So prior to the introduction of the licensing and registration system, if you found someone with a .22 rifle or a shotgun, there was actually very little way to tell whether or not they were in legal possession of that gun, because the firearms acquisition certificate was something you had to have when you first acquired the firearm, and then it lapsed and you kept the guns. So in 1995, for example, only about one-third of all gun owners in the country had valid firearms acquisition certificates. So the information about who has the guns, as well as the guns that they own, is really fundamental to having any kind of effective control.
And all that's done is taken any gun that's stolen. If someone steals my non-restricted firearms, it ensures those firearms remain illegal. They can never come back into their system, except for the 4,000 that were re-registered, but well, nor are those. But now if my guns are stolen...
I don't understand what you're saying.
If you steal my guns, you can't sell them to an individual who is licensed because it's registered. Right? You can't re-register it legally under your name.
Isn't that a
stolen.
good thing to prevent the recycling of stolen guns?
It keeps them in the illegal form. It keeps them amongst criminals. They're captive in that audience.
That makes no sense. That's as if you're saying that we shouldn't have VIN numbers on cars, because if a car is stolen and the VIN number is taken off, then the car is trapped forever in the cycle of illegality.
No, they're actually chopped.
I'm well aware of that.
So you wouldn't more
but the problem that we're facing is not that having information about who has guns is a bad thing.
We're not arguing at all.
The problem, which I think we're talking about, is simply a practical one. You are saying the gun registry doesn't do any good.
Correct.
I'm saying
it's a waste of money that could be spent elsewhere.
Fine. And I'm saying that to my mind, the gun registry is a good thing, and it's something that has some value. And to be honest, it's not something that really should be political. It's been politicized, and it's been politicized by both parties.
I hope you agree with that, yes.
I'll agree with that. It's been politicized by politicians. I guess that's what politicians do. But the fact is, it's almost like what an old mayor of New York said: there's no Republican or Democratic way to pick up the garbage. Either the gun registry is helpful and does things, or it doesn't.
Right.
And I think the people we should be asking, maybe not the cost, because the cost was
horrendous,
very high, and there were problems there. We hard to deny that. But the people we should be asking is not you or me. I don't own a gun. You own guns, and fine, I'm glad that you have legal guns. The people we should be asking are the police.
We should.
Does it work?
When's the last time the police were actually polled? We have talked about the police, individual police
the
officers.
Canadian Firearms Centre did poll police.
And that's not unbiased at all. They're trying to justify their own existence.
You just asked who did it.
I know.
Okay, so
But
they legitimately did
see...
it, and they used a legitimate outside service. Okay? Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well,
We're on the same side.
What I was going to say is you could actually ask the same question: when's the last time gun owners were polled? Because what's also interesting in the Léger poll is it shows that half of gun owners actually support the registry, and 70% of the people living with gun owners support the registry, which is also interesting because lots of times
But how much are they
politicians
actually informed?
forget that women vote too, and you often have these situations.
The situation we have right now is we're running out of time.
Yeah.
We'll be right back and join us for the final segment on gun control, the number of guns in York Region, and what we can all do about it. We'll be right back. Well, we're laughing, but it's a very serious matter. We're talking this evening about guns, gun control, and the potential upcoming federal legislation that could be repealing the long arms registry. So before the break, it was quite lively debate about the legislation, the use of it by police and others. But I'd like to go back to the public safety aspect of this. This, and remove ourselves a little bit from the politicization of it. Do all of you agree, gun owners or non-gun owners, that there is a public safety issue around guns and who owns them?
Has to be.
Who owns them? Absolutely.
Okay.
Criminals should not have guns. I think we'll all agree on that. I hope.
Absolutely.
You better be. That's your job.
Yeah. Is there an agreement that we should consider what police have to say about the gun registry as a tool?
To my mind, that's absolutely obvious. They are the people who should know, and they're the people we should turn to. They're the experts. Mm-hmm. If the police say the gun registry is useless, that will make a big difference in the way I think about the gun registry. But if they think it's useful, to my mind, they're the people who know.
Let's inform our audience a bit. At what age do you have to be to use a gun or be exposed to a gun?
In Canada, legally, it's basically the minimum age is 12. Now, in some rural areas, In some rural areas, you can actually use a gun or have access to a gun under supervision younger than that. It's very rare. It's generally places like Nunavut, rural areas.
That's not true, James.
Okay.
The minor
nodded.
certificate is
Well,
12.
yeah, you
Do
can-
we'll agree